Minasan, konnichiwa. Hi. So today I'm going to be talking to you about how I study Japanese. Let's talk about that. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tato and welcome to Life in Tea channel o yokoso. So today we're going to be talking about how I study Japanese, which is what I promised you guys from the last video. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first I'm going to show you a few of the books that I use in order to learn Japanese. So this is Genki, and you'll see that in a lot of videos on YouTube, a lot of people are using Genki textbooks to start learning Japanese. So this is the Genki book 1. That's the beginner level Genki, and that's the one I started with when I first arrived. Now, I think that this is a great beginner book, whether you're going to be using it in class for the teacher or if you're going to be self-studying, just because they do begin with, getting you started with the hiragana, the katakana, as well as the romanji, and then even as you move along the chapters, they will still have romanji and hiragana in a lot of the places. And I think that it's a very structured book. If you're following a class like I am, this provides you with a very nice structure. I know that a lot of people will complain that maybe the sentences within Genki are not the most colloquially used. They're not abiding to like the casual standards of language usage, but I think that it's good to cement those grammatical structures in a formal way before you start, casualizing the language. I think for me this is a great entry-level book, and I would definitely recommend it for both self-study as well as group study. So my school actually provides Japanese language classes. We do class once a week nowadays. It used to be twice a week, but now we do it once a week, and that has slowed down our progress a little bit, but you know what? There's still a lot of self-study that we can do outside of class. So now I'm currently using the second book, which I was very excited to start, to be honest. I just felt like our progress was so slow on the first book, and I just wanted to get things moving and running, and I wanted to feel like I'm making progress. So for me, getting done with one book and moving on to the next was like, oh my gosh, okay. One thing I will note though is that while I'm pretty solid on the grammar structures of the Genki 1, I still do feel like I am lacking in the vocabulary. So that's why I've kept the book, and I still go on to it, to look at some vocabulary. So the nice thing is that with each chapter, you've got this chapter, they start with a dialogue, and then they'll give you the dialogue in English as well, but then they'll give you like a vocabulary list, and some of these words will have been used in the dialogue and some will have not. But yeah, so I still go through the vocabulary list in this book because I feel like I'm lacking a little bit. So yeah, I've kept that book. Great. So now we are on the second book, and right now we have only just started. You still have the beginning of it, just showing you all the katakana, and you can still reference that, and it follows the same structure in the sense that each chapter will begin with a dialogue, and you get the translation in English for that dialogue, and then you have the vocabulary and then you have the grammar structures following that. So yeah, pretty much similar structure, and I'm loving this because I literally use it as my classroom textbook. So I get the teacher explaining things to me. We're still doing classes on Zoom. It's a little bit more challenging, paying attention on Zoom, but also staying focused and, following through with assignments and things. But we are moving on and we are seeing progress on that. So these are the main books, and for those of you who are studying Japanese, you'll already know that each book comes with a workbook. So you have, for the Genki 1, you have that workbook. You can do your assignments in there, and so on and so forth. And the second book also has a workbook, and I have yet to do, I think I've only done one piece of homework. Yeah, that's been graded. But then, yeah, there's a whole lot more. Actually, I need to be doing this homework because it'll be due in a couple of weeks and I am a little bit behind. Let's put it that way. Okay, so I'm gonna put these books away. So I'll put these away. Then I will talk about the books that I use at home, like books we don't use in the classroom but that I have found super helpful in my learning Japanese. So here's one that doesn't really get talked about much, Nihongo Active Talk. And I bought this, I think, in my second year of learning Japanese, and I felt like I actually should have bought it as the first textbook. And I think this is actually super helpful if you're trying to focus mainly on speaking Japanese. So if you are mainly just wanting to learn how to speak Japanese, this is really, really good. They focus on everyday conversations, and as you can see from the contents, it's really about making connections with people. It's not so much about learning the grammar and the vocabulary. It's literally about, can I say this phrase right now? It's giving you phrases you can use right away. So how to go out and make friends, your greetings, survival expressions, invitations, talking about travel. This I found super helpful. Seeing a doctor, I've had to see a couple of them around, and so it's always super helpful to know what phrases to use there, as well as saying goodbye and all that. It comes with a CD, and the exercises on the CD are super helpful. It's very easy to follow by yourself, and for every little dialogue they will have the furigana and they will have the romaji as well as the English translation. So it's honestly super easy, and I didn't really go through all of it just because I felt like, I didn't really need to. But I feel like if I had started with this book, and finished it, it would have given me that big bump maybe that I needed to feel in my learning. So I just wanted to give this book kind of like some light of day, because I think that it's super helpful. And if you are literally like at zero, this is a book you might want to consider before you even move on to Genki and such. And then here's the last book that I have been using, and this is a vocabulary book, and I only started using this a couple of months ago, I want to say. I don't really remember when I got it, but I do remember that the reason I got it was because I saw on one of my friends' YouTube channels, Rin-san, shout out, she had the N4 version of this book, and she was talking about it, and I kind of really liked the way that they go through things. So the idea of it is that you're learning vocabulary according to these different categories. So it's all grouped up. It's nice. It's self-introduction, studies, work, whatever, and all of the vocabulary has to do with that particular topic. So it's not super random. But the thing is, like, it comes with this red thing, and basically after you've learned the piece of vocabulary and you want to test yourself, you can hide the red parts and then read it in English, and then say, like, just test yourself and see if you know the word in Japanese. So it's a nice way of self-studying and self-evaluating to make sure that you're getting all of the vocabulary. So I got the N5 one just because, as I've mentioned before, I just didn't feel solid enough in my vocabulary, even though I think my grammar's okay, but I just felt like I needed to know a lot more words. So this has got 1,000 essential vocabulary for the JLPT N5. So there you go. So these are the books I am actively using to learn Japanese. So of course I don't only use textbooks to learn Japanese, because there's only so much you can get from reading the Japanese. So you can get the grammar, of course, you can get the vocabulary from, doing exercises and also reading from your textbook. But then other skills such as writing, listening, those require different kinds of tools for you to be able to use. So one of the things that I've really been enjoying is listening to podcasts. So I'll show you two of my favorite Japanese learning podcasts.
My absolute favorite is the Konnichiwa podcast, and in there they discuss a lot of topics ranging from history, science, even news stories about things that have happened in Japan, surprising things, unique things. But it's mostly just a conversation, but you get the best of the two languages, English and Japanese, and so you can learn from that conversation they're having. Next one is Easy Japanese Grammar, and it's more about learning Japanese. So it's a Japanese learning audio podcast. They follow the life of an international student trying to integrate into Japanese culture and language. Kanji. Kanji is the Japanese writing system that derived from Chinese characters, and there are different ways of reading it, and it may differ. Sometimes it's similar, sometimes it's different from the Chinese reading, so I've heard. But yes, how I learn kanji is through Wanikani, and that's a website developed by the makers of Tofugu. And I have to really give a shout out here to my friend Aditi, because last year around August, she was the one who told me about Wanikani. I didn't know about it at all, and she told me about it, and you know what, since day one I've been hooked. It's kind of like a game. You start from level 1, you're learning the most basic kanji like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going up the levels. So as you're learning the kanji, they also give you the vocabulary reading, the kanji reading, as well as a few example sentences. So it's all in one. The only thing is, like, it doesn't teach you to write the kanji, but it does teach you to recognize and to read that kanji, which for me is more than enough, because I'm not keen on learning how to write kanji. I just want to understand it so I can read stuff in Japanese.
These are the resources that I mainly use to study Japanese. And I mean, there's other things that I try to do as well. It's just that I don't really have a rigid schedule for how I incorporate them into my daily life. For example, you know, when I get the chance to speak to a Japanese person, whether that's a cashier at a store or even the security guards at the entrance of my university, I try as much as possible to speak Japanese with them. The cleaners here are really nice too, and you know, if you stop for like a 2-minute chat, they will chat to you. So for me, that's really important, because what I want to do is to really practice my speaking, you know, and my reading as well. And then I sometimes watch shows in Japanese. So I'm not really into anime, or I don't really read manga, but I do love reality shows. So I watched a lot of Terrace House, and a lot of the expressions that I know now actually come from watching Terrace House. So I love reality shows. I also watched, what is that show called? It's called the dating show Love is Blind. Yeah, Love is Blind Japan. I watched that show. And so when I watch these shows, I watch them with Japanese subtitles so that I can kind of also see how the words are written and things like that. And I'll stop and pause sometimes during the episode to just like note it down if I feel like it's a word I might want to be using on the daily. Right, so these are other things that I do. I also tend to listen to Japanese songs now. It's a recent development. I have been asking some people close to me about their recommendations for artists and bands that they like, and I sometimes listen. And when I listen to the song, so the way I listen to it is that I will literally be listening to one song for a whole week and trying to learn that song. Learn first how to sing it, because that's important to me. So I want to go to karaoke and be able to just like belt out. But also once I memorize the words in the song, then I go into, okay, what do they mean? You know, what am I singing? So this is sort of how I am learning Japanese now. And yeah, if you guys have recommendations for books, resources, or podcasts that you would want me to give a try, I am more than happy to give things a try. Yeah. All right, so if you enjoyed all of that, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.